Today's video is going to be dealing with a tool that's called FlipGrid. FlipGrid is basically a online platform that allows you as a teacher to provide your students with a question or a prompt, and then gives them the opportunity to respond to that question or prompt via video. So it's a really neat way to empower students to be able to supply information to questions that you might provide that they may not have otherwise wanted to answer in front of everyone in class. Instead, they might want to do it on their own via FlipGrid. So to get to FlipGrid, all you have to do is go to flipgrid.com or do a quick Google search, and you'll be there in no time. FlipGrid is a completely free tool, so that's another plus. There's no plan that you can have to pay for or anything like that. It's all free, and students are able to log in via their Google accounts. So if you go over to Educator Login in the top right corner, you are then given an option to log in through Google or create an account. I encourage you to use your Google login just to make life easier. Same with your students, that they use their RUSD Google logins. Once you log in, you're brought to this page, and this page is where all your grids are located. I'd like you to think of a grid as basically your classes. So each grid you make, that would be probably representative of each class that you teach for. So here I've got just some example grids that I've made already. So here's my 7th period class, or here's my block 3A. But anyway, we'll make a new grid today, and we'll call this my Spanish 1 class. Once you've named your grid, you then have some options in terms of how your students enroll into your class. You can make it through their school email, which is probably the suggestion I would make, or you can have them use their student IDs, or you can make it public where they just need the link to log into your grid and be able to respond. So I'm going to go with school emails because I think that's the most secure way in which to have students join your FlipGrid. And you can change the code on the bottom to be something else than the pre-generated one, but for right now that's perfectly fine. Here it asks, is there any other school email that they might be using besides at rusd.org? For our organization, there shouldn't be any other emails, so this is perfectly fine. We'll just click next here. And here we are, our grid is ready. They automatically give you some ways in which you can share your grid via a code, Microsoft Teams, or the two that we probably would use most often would be Google Classroom or the Remind app. But we'll just go to our grid right now. Also, a student, by the way, could type this link into any web browser and then be brought to your grid as well. So here's my Spanish 1 class grid. There's a ton of different things you can do to kind of change the components on this grid. You can change the images and all sorts of stuff, but we're going to keep things really simple on your grid. These are where you can basically make new topics. Every new grid that you create has a say hello on FlipGrid topic. I usually delete that grid just so that it's not there because I don't want it. So I'm going to delete the topic, and it says it'll be permanently gone. Yeah, that's fine. So let's say it's the beginning of the year. One of the cool things you could do with FlipGrid is have your students introduce themselves via FlipGrid. So this could be a real great first or second day of school activity. So I'm going to call this topic Introductions. And the recording time option is telling you how long do you want students to have an opportunity to record themselves. So you get to set the parameter in terms of length of time. 1 minute and 30 seconds is the default timer, but you can go as short as 15 seconds all the way up to 10 minutes. So one could actually use this as a way for students to record presentations. For introductions, I think a minute is plenty. And basically the prompt might be, tell me a little about yourself, include one interesting fact. Once you've created the prompt, you then are able to add media resources to help engage your students with this prompt. So here you can see a bunch of different options for different types of media resources. One that's kind of cool to kind of kick off any new topic is to record a video of yourself discussing the prompt or talking about the prompt and maybe having some of your expectations in there, or you even responding to the prompt yourself. So in this case, if I were to do this and this was my introduction video to my students, I might talk a little bit about myself in terms of my teaching experience, this along with a couple cool facts that make me unique. Just to, again, give them some guidelines in terms of what does this actually look like and how does this function. You can add, like I said, a bunch of different things, emojis, images, all sorts of great stuff. And this is just one of those tools that generally you just need to play around with to get more familiar before you launch it with your students. I would encourage you to do some playing before you just bring this to class the next day and start doing it with your students. So I'm going to click the Create Topic button, and our topic is ready. So if I want students to respond to this topic, then what I need to do is share this link with them, and they will be directed straight to that topic. I also can put it in my Google Classroom or send it out via Remind. I also could create a QR code that students could then scan with their phones and then respond to the topic via their phones. Which is another cool thing about FlipGrid is that it is an app that can be downloaded on Android and Apple devices. So students can get the FlipGrid app and then do this via their phone if that's an option that you would like them to work through. So here is my topic about introductions. Here's my prompt. Tell me a little about yourself. Include one interesting fact. This would be where I could have an image or my video that I might have made about the introduction itself so students could see this. And below down here, this is where you would actually start seeing responses from students. I'm going to take a second and go back into my grids. I'm going to look at a FlipGrid that I did with teachers on one of the new teacher nights. And this was just basically a question about how would they respond to using FlipGrid in their classroom. So here you can see my title of this topic, Technology in the Classroom, and this is my exit ticket, so that's what ET stands for, and here's my video prompt. So if someone logged into this topic and wanted to respond to it, they could play this.
Hi everyone, if you take a moment to answer the question as to what technology tool you think you might start to implement in your classroom after this evening, that would be great. As you can see, I've added some characteristics to my face, and this is one way in which we can kind of encourage students to be more willing to record themselves for activities like this, so you can kind of add an artistic component to the video. So take a moment to record a video and have a good evening.
Okay, so that kind of gives them an idea of what it is I'm expecting from this topic and how they should respond to it on FlipGrid. And as I mentioned in this video, there are some artistic pieces that you can put on your head and face just to, again, make it less likely that you are feeling afraid to record yourself via FlipGrid. So here is what it would look like for me as a teacher. These are all the responses from different teachers who responded to this grid. What is cool is students can, if you want to allow them, respond to one another as well. So they could record a response and then look through the grid and see like, oh, maybe I want to respond to Heidi's video. So I could watch Heidi's video and then respond directly to it. So it's a really interesting way to add some dialogue or conversation via a virtual medium such as video. One thing I didn't mention in the topic piece that might be worth noting is if you click this pencil in the top right corner, it says Edit Topic. This gives you the option to, change the title, the recording time, or the prompt, or all those things that I mentioned earlier. You also are able to allow for video moderation, which basically means anytime a student posts a video, you get to approve or deny the video post. So this is a good tool for you if you're a little worried that your students may be posting things that you don't want everyone to see right away. And this feature here where it says student-to-student replies, this allows your students to actually respond to one another's videos. If you want to turn that off and not have that happening, this is the place that you can change that setting. So there's a lot of different features that, once again, it's just one of those things that you might want to look through prior to launching your topic to seeing what you want your students to be able to do or not be able to do in that specific topic. One other cool thing that I've seen people use FlipGrid for is they will have students from one class respond to a prompt and then have a different class look at the other students' responses and have kind of a cross-class discussion that would not have been possible without the use of technology. So you could have, your first hour students having a discussion about something with your 7th hour students, for instance. So that's kind of neat. Or I've actually heard of teachers having their classes collaborate with one another. So maybe Mr. Smith's class is also collaborating with Mrs. Jones's class down the hallway via FlipGrid. And so that's just a cool way that you can utilize this tool as well. One last best practice or thing to think about, I guess, would be setting up a place in your room for recordings to occur. Sometimes when students record themselves, they like a little bit of privacy. So that can be as simple as just a corner of the room to allow them to go to a place that's a little more private for those recordings. I've seen some teachers hang up a blanket or a tarp or something to kind of make a private area. FlipGrid has actually encouraged teachers to get these little tents. They're called pop-up pods, which basically is maybe a 4x4 tent that you set a chair in, and students can go in and then record their videos. Here you can see this adult in here in this tent utilizing the FlipGrid tent to basically make a video recording. So that's another tool that you might want to consider if you're really liking FlipGrid and something you want to use in your classroom. I hope you found this video helpful or at least somewhat informative. If you ever have any questions, my name is David Venny. I'm an instructional coach at Horlick High School, and I'd be happy to provide you support. Our tech integrators at RUSD are also fabulous, and they know a whole lot of great ways that you can utilize FlipGrid in your classroom. So hit one of them up, or your own instructional coach in your building. Hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you next time.